Uh, Hello, and I'm going to use the chance and welcome you to my hometown of Tallinn. I'm really, really happy to see you guys here. And to be completely honest with you, I just landed yesterday from the islands. Can we have a little bit less sound here? Thanks. I just landed from the islands, so it still hasn't sunk in me that Mindvalley has finally made it to Estonia. And Mindvalley has been around for a long time, and finally you guys are here, and I'm so happy to welcome you to my hometown. And I hope you're going to enjoy it thoroughly. And one word of advice from the very beginning. Today is nice weather, but tomorrow it's going to be plus 13. And Estonian weather is unpredictable. If you're enjoying the light nights, it's because we are so far in the north. We're so far in the north that if we were in the south, we'd be in Antarctica. So, guys, one word of advice. Just accept that weather is not why you're here. You're not here for the weather. And if you accept this little fact, the rest of it will be really enjoyable. So, welcome once again, and I want to start with a quote. By one of the guys whose quotes I really, really enjoy. And Vishen was saying that he's had this one quote for 10 years on his Facebook. I've had this quote accompany me for 20 years, or maybe more than that, even before Facebook times, because I truly believe that this is a very deep quote. And please don't laugh. You're already seeing it, life is too important to be taken seriously. So, in our family, I'm the clown. I'm the person who takes fun very seriously, who takes fun professionally. And I really think that we as a humanity have to lighten up. And fortunately, especially in our niche, in our sphere, in personal growth, we're already talking about love, about connectedness. But truly, I believe that joy and happiness are such high emotions that we are sometimes underestimating the importance of truly having fun and enjoying every single moment. So before I was coming on the stage, I was a little bit terrified because I remember Mindvalley U last year. How many of you guys were last year? Not many, but you know what a growth has happened. And when I saw this venue and when I saw this crowd, I couldn't recognize it. It's like a completely different event. It's even bigger than A-Fest. And it took me 8 years to get on A-Fest stage. And then here I come, and this is as grand. So for a while I was getting a little bit antsy. It's like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But then I remembered that fun is why we are here for. So rather than, try to fight with what I was feeling, I was like, this is actually fun. Feeling nervous is actually fun. So I'm going to talk about happiness. And do you guys know what is happiness? You know why scientists don't research happiness? Because I looked into science of happiness, I looked into the research, and I discovered that there is not much research on happiness. And there's one simple reason. It's really hard to define what is happiness. It's really hard to quantify it. It's a very subjective thing. It's our perception. So because of that, scientists don't really seriously study happiness, and we have to rely on ourselves, on our environment to learn how to be happy. And I believe that actually, like everything in this life, like everything good in this life, happiness is a natural state of being. Happiness is the state in which we are born, or not maybe so much happiness as joy, which is why I have this picture, just to remind myself that as children, we actually know how to be happy. So the girl on this picture is Eve. That's actually in Mindvalley U in Barcelona, so she's 1 year older right now. When I look at Eve, who's 4 years old, she wakes up in the morning and she's usually happy and joyful. And then sometimes our son Hayden bugs her a little bit or makes fun of her, teases her, and then she starts crying. But she forgets it very quickly. She moves on, she forgives Hayden, and she's happy again. Or sometimes she runs around and falls off the staircase and bruises her knee, and then she cries because it's painful. But then when the pain goes away, she's happy again. So this is a natural state that we are born with, and somehow we unlearn from being happy by default. And I really like one quote by Vishen, which is, realism is a socially acceptable form of pessimism. So we learn to be realists because this is socially acceptable. And why I talked about children is that in the in the basis of what I'm teaching when I talk about happiness is this theory by this guy, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who is much more known for the theory of flow, but he also has come up with the theory of hedonistic adaptation. And when I was talking about children and Eve and her ability to become joyful and happy again, that's exactly the illustration of what this theory means. We all have our set point, our default level of happiness or joy. And then, whatever happens in our lives, we sometimes go a little bit off that set point of that default, and then we get back to that default state. And this theory is actually relevant to a lot of things in our lives, like to our weight, to our financial abundance. And it is also true about happiness, which is why you have people who have actually a lot of misfortune in their life, yet they're happy. Or people who seemingly have everything, and yet they're always grumpy. So my teaching about happiness, or how to become more happy, is based in that theory. And our point is actually to raise the default, the set point of happiness. And here I want to explain one interesting concept. What do we do when we are sometimes down? We have our variety of methods to deal with being down, with being unhappy, with being stressed. And sometimes these are nice methods, like in my case, having a piece of chocolate. Chocolate is answer to everything. Or sometimes it's going and talking to a friend, or meditating. And sometimes they're a little bit more destructive, like having a glass of wine, or, I don't know, gossiping, or maybe going to drugs, medications, smoking, overeating. There are a lot of different little measures that we undertake to feel a little bit better. And it's okay. But the problem with these measures is that they are instant gratification type of remedies against not feeling so good. And the theory of hedonistic adaptation is hinting that these things are temporary. It's an instant gratification methodology which brings you back to your default state. So to become a happier person, you should not resort more to those little things which bring you eventually wear off. You actually need to look into long-term strategies which help you raise your set point of happiness. And the problem with these little measures, the instant gratification type of measures, is that not only their effect wears off pretty quickly, but also they stop having such an effect on you, like with any medication. And eventually they may create an addiction where you start doing that thing over and over again and it just stops helping. And it is true not about only the destructive means, such as, I don't know, drinking, smoking, taking drugs. It is actually also true about less destructive methods, like taking a walk in the park or meditating. They're all good remedies, the less destructive ones, like walking, breathing, meditating, talking to friends. But as long as they are instant gratification type of methodology, they will only help you feel a little bit better. And we'll go deeper into that as I go on, about some of the things which may happen. So I have come up with 6, initially it was 5, things, practices, which are maybe not so efficient in the now when you apply them when you are being unhappy, but they are long-term strategy and they actually help you feel happier over time. And one of them, I'm actually not going to go deep into each of them, I will go deep into some of them. My favorite ones. So one of them is the gratitude. And Mindvalley community, of course, is very familiar with gratitude. But gratitude is a beautiful example of long-term strategy over instant gratification. Because the thing is that when you express gratitude, you do feel a little bit better. But generally, it doesn't make you feel euphoric, ecstatic, joyful. It just makes you feel a little bit better. It shifts your perspective. But the thing is that there is a research that shows that if you express gratitude on a daily basis for 30 days, your perception of your own happiness goes up 25%. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. We have to look into long-term strategies, which maybe in the instant are not as effective, but in the long term, they help you raise your set points of happiness. So I'm not going to go very deep into gratitude. I'll just maybe reiterate for those who maybe haven't seen me on stage so often. We like Vishen will talk about that actually in his seminar, Be Extraordinary, because it's going to be centered around the 6-phase meditation, and gratitude is one of the 6 phases. And you express gratitude for the things that you are grateful for in your work life, your mission, your purpose, in your personal life, and for the things that you're grateful for in yourself. So this is the exercise we do on a daily basis to raise our set point of happiness. Another thing, another methodology which I really love is the idea of being present. And the guy who really talks well about that is, of course, Eckhart Tolle, with his teaching of the power of now. And this is another interesting idea which maybe doesn't have such a strong effect in this moment when you apply it, but it really works wonders if you practice it over time. And the idea here is that in reality, time is an illusion. There is no future and there is no past. And most of the unpleasant emotions that we feel, they have something to do with either the future or the past. If we're scared, if we're stressed, it is usually because we are afraid about something that might happen in the future, usually. And if we feel, let's say, resentment or anger, this kind of negative emotion is also usually rooted in the past. And the happiness is the emotion that you feel in the present. If you move happiness to the future, it will become excitement. If you move happiness to the past, it will become usually nostalgia. But the truth is that the happiness, the true, pure joy, is in the present moment and only in the present moment. So if you practice consciousness and bringing yourself back to present moment, that actually over time works wonders. You start, your set point of happiness starts going up. And here I want to just to illustrate, bring up a situation which I'm sure some of you might be familiar with. So as Jason said, I have a family, I have children, and I also have a business. And I like them both. I actually have 3 children. My 2 actual children, my business, and Vishen, 4. But, so we have a tradition in the family. When my kids go to sleep, I sing to them. So I sing the songs, and I like singing because as I sing, I can actually think about other things. So I sing the lullaby to my children, and then I'm thinking of that video or that vlog I have to record, and what am I supposed to talk about that? And at that moment, I suddenly realize how quickly children grow. And how quickly that moment passes. And here I am in the most blissful moment imaginable with the 2 most loved creatures in my life, lying right next to me, peaceful, healthy, in a nice home. I'm singing to them, and I'm thinking about some irrelevant stuff in the future. So that is exactly what I'm talking about. The happiness is in the now. If you just manage to catch that moment and bring yourself back to now, there is so much to be happy about. You walk out into the nature and you feel the freshness of the air. That's a moment to be happy about. Because how many times we don't even notice how we breathe, what we see around us. And when we see these things around us, if we don't bring ourselves back to the now to notice, the life might just pass by without us truly learning what is happiness. So I'm going to go now into more fun things. For a long time, I resisted. I resisted adding this to my list of 6 because, in personal growth, we have the idea that transformation starts with taking on personal responsibility onto yourself. And there is this beautiful thing that says that we don't need anyone for happiness. Happiness is within you. But if you've ever had a child sick or a parent sick or, a fight with a person that you love, with a friend, with your spouse, you know that it is really hard for this wisdom to make sense in that very moment. I remember when our son Hayden went into appendectomy, and it is a fairly simple operation for about 1 hour. I had to wait for 2 hours, but these 2 hours seemed like the longest time in my life because I wasn't sure what was going to happen to my most dear person in my life. And even if for these 2 hours I was sitting somewhere in a corner meditating, telling myself that the happiness is in me, I don't need anyone for happiness, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have helped. And that's the interesting thing about transformation. There is so much wisdom around, so many ideas that we hear over again, and we say, yes, I know, yes, I know, yes, I know, but they don't take root. They don't make sense. They don't make sense in the moment when you need them to make sense. So I've realized that in my life at least, aha moments and revelations happen in the most unexpected places. And for example, that whole idea that happiness is within you and you don't need anyone for happiness, I discovered what it truly means once when I was driving to work. And I believe that wisdom makes sense if you can feel it within yourselves. The moment when you realize, now I get it what it is. Now I get it what you were talking about. That's when it takes root and it starts making sense in your life. But until then, like on the conscious level, all the wisdom you know, it doesn't matter if you don't live it. So the happiness within you. I learned it as I was going to work, and there was this Estonian radio playing, and there was this popular song playing. It's called Okay, and it has the words, "It's gonna be okay." And as I was listening to this song, I suddenly felt myself like I was 18 again. I was careless, I had nothing to worry about, and I felt in that moment that no matter what happens, as long as I have myself, I will get back to being okay. But this is just as long as I have myself. And in the moment when something is happening to you and your loved ones, it is okay that you do not feel happy. It is okay. Because you are a social being. And what is I? Is I just this physical body, or is I all of this? Is me, perception of me, does it include you? Or does it only include me? So in that moment, I felt that yes, as long as I have myself, I'll be okay. But it is also okay to not feel so happy when something is wrong with a person who is really close to you. So after that journey, I gave in. I trusted the scientists who said that the #1 correlation between happiness is in your social connections. So finally, a month ago, I've added relationship to the list. So the strength of your social relationships is super important for happiness. And there was this really beautiful study. You can find the talk by Robert Waldinger. It was the longest study in the history of humankind that shows that this is truly so. So you have to surround yourself by people whom you love, whom you care about, who you're attached to, even though it means that sometimes you might be a little bit unhappy if something happens to them. So, just to sum up that idea about the relationships, scientists have shown that people in relationship, they are healthier, they heal better, and they live longer. And the reverse is true. As Vishen said, social isolation is the epidemic in the current day society. And he said it is despite Facebook and Instagram, but I would say it is also because of Facebook and Instagram. We are forgetting how to interact. We're forgetting what it is to truly connect to each other. Facebook and Instagram is another layer which we put on ourselves. This is another thing we have to learn to deal with and not to lose the social connection. And I've also heard that social isolation is apparently the #1 killer in the current day society. Because social isolation makes you less likely heal from, let's say, such things as cancer or cardiovascular disease. So relationships are important not just for happiness, but also for our health and longevity. And the story I was telling you about how I realized that as long as I have myself, everything is going to be okay, brings me to my next point, to the next strategy for you to learn to be happy and to raise your set points of happiness. This is self-love. And truly, you cannot be happy unless you truly accept and love yourself. I'm not going to go very deep into that because we have a beautiful teacher, one of my favorite Mindvalley teachers. She will be part of this Mindvalley U, and I hope she's going to be speaking on stage. It's Marissa Peer, and as Jason said, I do bring the knowledge of our best teachers to the Russian market, which is why you see this is our home mirror, and it's in Russian. It says, "I'm enough." So she's probably the best teacher to help you if you have any issues with accepting yourself, with loving yourself. And here maybe I want to talk just a tiny bit, because it is clear that you cannot truly be happy unless you are happy with yourself. And I know the number one question that I hear when I talk about this topic is that, but where do I know the difference between healthy self-love and actually egoism or unhealthy, relationships to yourself or self-centeredness? And I haven't lived a very long life, only 40 years, but that piece of life has taught me one thing, that almost all the bad things that we do to other people are because we don't truly love ourselves. Because if we truly love and accept ourselves, we don't need to prove anything to anyone. We don't need to prove anyone wrong, to show anything to anyone. And that's where all the unhealthy stuff happens, is when you truly don't have the self-love. And people who seem that they're self-obsessed, this is them compensating for the lack of love for themselves. This is what Vishen was talking about. I'm really sorry, kids, but unfuckwithable is exactly when you do not need anybody's approval to be okay with yourself. And a lot of the times when I hear somebody saying, oh, they're so full of themselves, that's exactly the problem. We do not see. We only see the mask. We only see what social media shows us. We don't see the void and the pain in those people. We only are nasty if we don't love ourselves truly, which is why I think this is a very important point in learning to be happy. And there is never such thing as too much love for yourself. And I'm going to go further because I'm coming to the two of my favorite practices in the theory of how to live a happier life, how to learn to have your set point of happiness higher. And one of them is, of course, dealing with the negative. Because when we talk about happiness, often we talk about shifting the perception, looking at things differently, seeing the light versus the dark. But the truth is that there are both. There's light, there's dark. We were just talking about seasons in Estonia. I come from Malaysia, we don't have seasons there. And I remember when I lived in Estonia, I loved spring. And spring is not as warm as summer, but just the sight of sun makes you feel happy. Just a little bit of warmth when you can take off those gloves and feel the air on your hands, that makes you happy. And you can only truly appreciate spring if you have survived the winter. So what I'm talking about is there is going to be negative in our life. And the art to learning to be happy is not to ignore or not notice the negative or be okay with the negative. It is actually to learn to work with it. And as I was going to A-Fest, that's where I first made this new version of this talk. I saw the two books. Again, I'm really sorry, kids, but these books are on the shelves in the bookshop, so I'm taking off all the responsibility for that. Also, English is my third language, so when I say that word, it doesn't hit me at all. It's like it's just a foreign language. So, sorry, guys. So I saw those two books, Fuck Love, Fuck Feelings, and it suddenly dawned on me, this is the problem with current society. There was another book which was super famous, how the subtle art of not giving a fuck. Sorry. And I think that's exactly the problem. We're so obsessed with the idea of not giving a damn, that we are forgetting that the point of life is to experience it, not to let it pass by you, but to let it pass through you. And there is such an interesting thing called spiritual bypassing. And the idea of that is that when we feel negative emotions, there are three scenarios. Scenario number one is to ignore the negative emotions, to say, no, I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling angry. I'm not feeling dislike for that person because I'm not supposed to. In personal growth field, this is a particularly strong epidemic because we are perfectionists. We have the perfect idea of a Zen life, of a Zen happy life. Nothing bothers me. I love everything. I feel joy about everything. And it's beautiful, but it is also dangerous. I was an all-A student in school. I got 2 medals, not 1, 2 medals. One for studying really well, and one from the president of the country because I was the best student in my school. So I know what is perfectionism. Perfectionism spells paralysis. It also spells unhappiness. So we have this perfect vision of what is Zen life. And then when we feel anything less than Zen, like angry, stressed, worried, scared, or even worse, dislike for someone, jealousy. Haven't we felt anything of that? What happens? We have 3 scenarios. We ignore, we say, I don't feel that, because Zen person doesn't feel that. Another one is we whitewash it. Rather than saying, I feel angry with you, we say, oh, I'm so disappointed. Or something nicer, something more acceptable, something more fitting to the picture of perfectionism. And the third trap is to actually jump into transforming this negative emotion into something productive. And all these 3 behaviors are called spiritual bypassing, because what happens is that we don't really deal with the negativity. We pretend it does not exist, or that it's something else, but it does. And like any energy, if you don't deal with that, if you don't let it pass, it's going to short-circuit in you and make the situation worse. And eventually, it is going to explode like a nuclear bomb. So, this lady, Susan David, she has a beautiful TED Talk. You can go and see it on YouTube. She talks, I love this talk. She goes even further. She says, what is negative emotion and what is positive emotion? There are emotions which we want to experience, and there are emotions which we don't want to experience. So, for example, before I was going on stage at A-Fest, and in 15 A-Fests, that was my first time. I was scared. I had the pressure on. Vishen's wife is going on stage. I was so scared. But the day before A-Fest, I was having a good appetite. I was laughing, playing around, partying, and I was thinking to myself, what is going on with me? Why I'm not nervous? And that made me really nervous. And the next morning, I woke up, I went for breakfast. That was the day of when I was doing the speech, and I didn't have appetite. I was like, yes, I'm nervous. The truth is that I know that if I'm nervous before I go on stage, I do better. So in my view of life, being nervous before going on stage is an emotion that I want more of, right? Is it a negative or a positive emotion? The same with love. And that's a dangerous one. I'm sure some people will not like me for saying that. We all love love. We all love to share love. We all want to experience love. But is it the kind of love that we feel here at Mindvalley events? Like, oh, I love my community, I love my family. Or is it the kind of love which might make us feel insecure because you love a man, in my case, let's say. Or a woman loves a man, and she develops an attachment, and that might hurt her. I would say that current day society is much more craving for that kind of love, which is easy and doesn't create attachments, and is afraid of the kind of love that can create pain or attachment. So you see, we're talking about the same emotion, yet we want more of one side of that emotion and less of the other side of that emotion. So Susan David talks exactly about that the question is not even about positive or negative emotions. The question is, in which kind of emotions do we want more of, and which kind of emotions do we want less of? And now what I'm talking about is that whatever emotions we feel, they're good, and we just need to learn how to deal with them. And I just want to bring another example, which I'm sure a lot of you will relate. If you come out of the gym and you feel every single muscle in your body, and you would say it's pain, yet that pain reminds you of the muscles you forgot existed. That pain feels like life going through your cells. This is the nice kind of pain, right? So I'm coming back to that thought that I wanted to say. Our goal here on this planet Earth is not to be dead before we are dead. Our goal here is to actually experience life, go through us and not past us. Which is why I want to talk about this beautiful movie called Inside Out. Any of you, have you guys seen this movie? Yay! It's a great movie, really great movie, because it is exactly about that. You know, emotions are very much like our physical body. If we feel pain, it's because we need to pay attention to that part of our life. The same way, if we didn't feel physical pain, we might lose a leg in the process of running without realizing that because we don't feel the pain, which is why we need emotions of all sorts. And this movie talks beautifully about that. It's a movie about a girl who is mostly run by joy. And when things goes wrong in her life, rather than allowing other emotions to express themselves, she suppresses them, which takes to the full and whole ruin of her life. And for those who haven't seen the movie, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but the point is that whatever emotions you experience are there for a reason. And I'm going to advertise another speaker, but mostly because I really love this guy, Galen Tupton. He's going to be at this event on this stage, and I'll let him talk about that. But he talks beautifully about experiencing pain in your life. He has had a really long, complicated relationship with learning what is pain about and how to work with it. So, from psychology background, not my background, but let's say from some psychological theory, what you do when you feel a negative emotion, first of all, you acknowledge that it exists. You give it a true and fair and honest name without spiritual bypassing. You actually acknowledge, this is what I feel. You allow yourself to feel it. And every emotion feels in your body in a certain way, which actually helps. I like the connection between emotions and the physical body, because by translating your emotions into physical body, it's easier to work with them. So let's say if you feel fear and it's somewhere in your stomach, just relaxing that part of your body really helps. Or if you feel like anger and it's up here, breathing deeper really helps. So you allow that emotion to be, and Galen Tupton is going to talk deeper about what it is. Honestly, when I heard him for the first time, he blew my mind. I could not get my brain back together for a long time. And then after you let it be, that's when you're ready to move on and transform this emotion, but you have to let it be. So I'm not going to go any further in this, because I have the sixth element to learning to be a happier person, and this is forgiveness. And maybe by now you've noticed that it is a little bit ironic because I'm talking about happiness, yet I've talked about a lot of negative stuff. Well, because I think the whole idea is actually to learn to deal with everything that life throws on you. And one thing that life will throw on you are negative emotions in the form of being upset with someone. And again, Vishen is going to talk about that much deeper in his training, because forgiveness is also one of the phases of the six-phase meditation. But before we go into forgiveness in the context of six-phase meditation, usually we have to work through a lot of negative stuff before that. This is just a description of the exercise that you will be doing in Vishen's training. I will not be doing this exercise. I have a substitute. But I'll talk about probably the most important part about forgiveness. I was wondering, why is it so hard for us to forgive? And I've had an experience where I had to forgive someone, and it took me a few years to get through that. And I think that the point is that we are sometimes thinking that forgiveness is about, if I forgive, the evil is not going to be punished. So we don't want to forgive because we want some kind of learning out of that, or the evil to be punished. But the truth is that forgiveness is not a practice for anyone else but for you. Being upset with someone is like taking poison, hoping that the person who upset you is going to suffer. If you're upset with someone, if you are angry with someone, if you hold a grudge against someone, the only person who's suffering is you. Just you. And the moment when you realize that, forgiveness is not about the other person who has hurt you, but it is only about you, you have much more motivation to work on that. And again, I'm not going to go deep into that because Vishen is going to do that training. I just want to... when I talk more about that, I bring up another beautiful movie, Wonder. Maybe you should watch this movie before you go for Vishen's training. I'll close with a quote, and then we'll do an exercise, if you don't mind. And the quote, when Vishen was speaking a long time ago on the same stage with Dalai Lama and a whole bunch of really amazing people, we had a chance to talk to Dalai Lama. And that was from my past days when I was more working in the NGOs with refugees and not so much with Mindvalley. And I had this dilemma, which I asked the Dalai Lama. I said, you know, every day I see human misery because refugees go through really hard stories. And I work with refugees in Asia, so I'm talking about Burmese refugees. Really, really sad stories. Yet, I'm also a co-founder of Mindvalley that is teaching people to live happier, more fulfilled, more extraordinary lives. How do you reconcile these two? And he said a very simple thing. You cannot help anyone, Kristina, if you're not happy. So I'll first say a closing, and then we'll do a meditation. And the closing is, be happy. Thank you. So if you don't mind, I'd like to do meditation with you. And in the traditions of the Silver method, this meditation is partially to meditate, and you'll meditate a lot in Mindvalley, but it's also partially to memorize what I've been talking about. So we're going to go through, just a second, through the 6 phases that I just talked about. Not 6 phases, sorry, 6 strategies that I just talked about. I have the timing here. If you, can I do this? Okay, but I would like some nice music, if you don't mind. And I love doing meditations. And if, I think the lights are fine. So take a very comfortable position. If you could put all your things aside, so nothing is in your laps. Better uncross your legs. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And as you exhale, relax your body. Relax your body from head. Feel how the relaxation flows down through your whole body into your feet. Smile. Smile helps you relax the muscles on your face. Take another deep breath, and as you exhale, relax. Let go of all the thoughts. Relax your mind. You're in a safe place. You're in your tribe, in your family. There's nothing to worry about. Take another deep breath. And as you exhale, relax and go deeper. I'm now going to count from 10 to 1, and with each descending number, you're going to go deeper in the meditation. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. And this meditation is going to help you to go through the 6 practices for happiness and to memorize them and to experience them. And I want you to think right now of some situation which has created a negative emotion in you in the past, not long ago, maybe today, yesterday, this week. Bring back the situation and that emotion that you felt in that moment. Whatever that emotion is it anger, jealousy, fear, whatever it is, you can feel it somewhere in your body. Locate that emotion in your body. And now take a deep breath, and as you exhale, relax, and tell yourself to relax that part of your body where you felt that emotion. Relax physically, and that will help you to ease the emotion. Take a deep breath, relax. And whatever that situation was brought to, whoever that person was who maybe made you feel that, or maybe the circumstances made you feel that, or maybe you were upset with yourself. Let go of that feeling of resentment. Forgive that situation, that person, yourself. Because forgiveness is about you. It's not about them. It's about you letting go of the negative charge. Just relax your body and feel how all negativity goes out with each exhale. Take a deep breath. Exhale, relax, and feel yourself right now. Feel your body. Feel yourself as a physical body, as emotions, as intelligence, your mind that helps you go through this exercise, and as the spirit that lives inside you. And tell yourself, I love myself. And if you truly believe that you love yourself, feel that love within you. Maybe it's light or warmth. Feel the love within you. Feel how it fills your body. Every cell in your body is filled with love. And now feel how this love is so big, it radiates out of you. Like a big bubble of light, warmth. And now place your loved people into that bubble of love. Feel how your love fills the people that you love, whether it's your family, your children, your parents, your spouse, your loved one, your friends. You're not alone. You have really important people in your life. Don't you feel grateful for that? Feel the gratitude for having yourself, for having your loved ones, for having your life. How does gratitude feel in you? How does it feel in your body? Don't just mention gratitude. I'm grateful for me. I'm grateful for my loved ones. Feel the gratitude. It makes a huge difference. When you think about something, it is just your mind engaged. When you feel something, your emotions engage, your body engages, and your spirit engages. Take a deep breath, relax, and feel yourself being now in this place. Feel your body, your skin, the clothing on your body, the chair or the beanbag in contact with your body. Feel this moment. There is only this moment. The future and the past are just illusion. Life is just now. It's only now. And happiness is now. There's nothing between you and the happiness. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, relax. I'm now going to count from 1 to 5, and at the count of 5, you're going to open your eyes, feel wide awake, feel fine and in perfect health, and you are going to have a beautiful evening ahead. 1, 2, come back to this room slowly now. 3, 4, 5. Eyes open, wide awake, feeling happy. Thank you.